Hello and welcome to Moment of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Let's have a bit of good news, shall we? It's official. The Tories are facing a 1997-style wipeout. That's according to a nationwide YouGov poll that featured on the front page of the Daily Telegraph yesterday. They revealed that the most extensive election poll carried out for 5 years predicts that, as things stand, the Tory party will retain just 169 seats after the next general election. Sounds good to me. It will be their biggest collapse since 1906. 11 cabinet ministers are forecast to be ousted, including Jeremy Hunt, Grant Shapps, Penny Mordaunt, Gillian Keegan, Simon Hart, Johnny Mercer, John Redwood, and Lucy Fraser. If the polls are to be believed, Labour would win a landslide majority of 120, ending up with 385 MPs. But wait, it gets even better. Columnist Sam Friedman has delved into the figures and found that there are no seats in the country where the Tories score more than 40% of the vote. They only score more than 35% in 74 seats, and there are fewer than 40 seats nationwide where the Tories are 10 points ahead of the second place party. There are just 12 seats nationwide where the Tories' projected vote share outweighs the combined Labour and Lib Dem result. Combine Labour, Lib Dems and the Green vote, and the Tories will be left with 2 seats nationwide. 2. Now, obviously, since the Tories own more than half of Britain, dominate the top jobs, and run the majority of the vomit stream media, that kind of election outcome is fanciful. But it does give some indication to the amount of damage to the bastard Tory party that tactical voting could do. According to Dylan Difford from Make Votes Matter, as things stand, if just 1/3 of Labour, Lib Dem and Green voters in England and Wales voted tactically for the strongest party, the results change from the Tories getting 169 seats to the Tories getting just 69 seats. This would mean Labour would get 463 seats and the Lib Dems would get 70 seats, putting them 1 seat ahead of the Tories. The Liberal Democrats would become the official opposition party. And just for fun, if we turn the dial up on the tactical voting to cover 50% of progressive voters, then the number of seats the Conservatives are projected to get goes down to just 24. Not 224, which would result in a hung parliament, not 124, which would be the Tories' biggest defeat in history, just 24 out of 650. That would mean a loss of 341 of the seats that the Tories won in the last election. They would then be the 4th party after Labour, the Lib Dems and the SNP. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There is still much to do, and I don't think for 1 second there wasn't some horrifying ulterior motive for the Telegraph to be screaming the result of this poll, in particular from the rooftops this week of all weeks. Because it turns out, you're not going to believe this, but this YouGov research was commissioned by a group of Conservative donors called the Conservative Britain Alliance, or the CBA, as in can't be arsed, a mysteriously funded right-wing think tank. What? Another one? Working with none other than arch Brexiter and Boris Johnson bald chortler-in-chief, Lord Frost. And what happens this week? Oh, well, there's a vote in Parliament on that utterly psychotic Rwanda bill. The bill that's going to declare safe for refugees, a country that is so demonstrably unsafe, we've accepted refugees from said country in the last couple of years. The bill, as it stands, won't get a single refugee on a flight, mostly because no airline has agreed to work with the hated Tories on this barbaric and idiotic scheme. But for the headbangers on the right of the party, the bill doesn't go far enough. Not because they actually give a fuck about Rwanda or the plight of refugees or smashing the gangs or the drunken Facebook ramblings of their bigoted voters. No, they just want this bill to be a Trojan horse so Britain can pull out of the ECHR. You know, like Russia. Then they can really begin to oppress those of us who had the dreadful misfortune of not attending private school, because the cost of a house relative to income being the highest it's been since Victorian times, food bank use having gone through the roof, homelessness being off the charts, despair and depression gripping the country like never before, an economy as stagnant as our waterways, and an NHS as decrepit as our standing in the world is not enough for these sick, twisted, moneyed bastards. It's not enough for them to have more filthy lucre than entire countries. That doesn't make them happy. The only thing that makes these sick fucks happy is seeing others suffer, to see them stripped of their possessions, their hope, their dignity and their rights. Polls like this are nothing new. The Tories have been 20 points behind in the polls since Truss and Kwarteng's kamikaze budget. But this one was commissioned for the attention of nobody other than Rishi Sunak, to make him squirm, to pressure him, to let the Brexit headbangers have one last hurrah before they stuff their suitcases with used £50 notes and fuck off to wherever it is that rich people like to see the rest of their dreary, soulless, loveless days. The message couldn't be clearer. Vote for our amendments on the Rwanda scheme or else. But really, or else what? Sunak knows that he's got no chance of winning the next election. If sending a handful of refugees to a Central African dictatorship at the cost of £700 million was top of the agenda for voters, you would have seen the needle move on the polls, but they haven't. Millions of us have bigger things to deal with right now, closer to home. The Telegraph tried its best to manipulate the figures to show that the Tories' only hope is some kind of alliance with whatever the Brexit Party is calling itself today, Reform UK, or ReFuck for short, I believe. If that was part of the intent, it failed miserably. You see, YouGov, the company that ran the poll, was forced to correct some errors made on purpose by the chundering dickheads at the Telegraph. They clearly have an even lower opinion of their readership than I do. The Torygraph claimed that Labour's average vote is up by just 4% compared with 2019, which YouGov itself called somewhat of a red herring. The Telegraph also suggested that the presence of refuck is the difference between Labour securing a majority or not. They claim to have come to this conclusion by using YouGov's data, but it appears to be based on simply adding the Conservative and refuck numbers together in each constituency, which is not a reliable way of measuring the impact. Furthermore, YouGov polling in October last year found that only 31% of refuck voters would be willing to vote Conservative if their preferred party was not standing. Effectively, it doesn't matter if refuck stands a candidate in every single constituency in the country, or if it stands no candidates whatsoever. The Tories are still going to lose. But what will make a difference between the Tories losing by a little or them losing by a lot will be tactical voting. And there may be some of you watching this thinking, well, the Tories are going to lose anyway, whether we tactically vote or not. What's the point? The point is this. The Tories have destroyed everything that was once good about this nation. They have reached into the lives and the pockets of millions of us and robbed us blind. They've robbed us of our birthrights, our dreams, our futures. Natural justice dictates that it's not enough that the Tories are beaten in the next election. They must be destroyed as a warning to all those useless, arrogant, guffawing toffs, as a warning to the lobbyists doing the bidding of the petrochemical nightmares, the military-industrial complex, the sugar barons, the drug dealers, the merchants of death. They must be destroyed as a warning to the so-called think tanks of 55 Tufton Street, as a warning to our foreign or non-Dob-owned Tory press, as a warning to all the corrupt shitbags running our public services into the ground for the profit of faceless, anonymous people on the other side of the world. We need to show them that we're as mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore. And if we can make the Liberal Democrats the official opposition to the government, a Labour government, that will go some way towards dragging the Overton window several miles to the left of where it is today. That's my take on the matter. Please let me know your take in the comments below.